guys, Lemmy here. Welcome back to another video. So I stumbled across a very interesting little story on Twitter the other day that I thought I'd share with you guys. And I normally don't make videos based off of real events when they involve people other than myself, but I think in this case, it would be very, very interesting to see how people interpret this. So to quickly summarize, this little story I'm about to share is about what is proper art etiquette, about where to draw the line, where inspiration starts and art theft begins, what exactly is the difference between tracing, copying, and referencing. Do any of these things I just listed even really matter? Should you share things on social media, or is it wrong to do so? We're going to be talking about quite a few things, but mostly I want to get your own personal opinion on what this person did. Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it okay? Is it not okay? I'm also not going to be sharing any thoughts really of my own. I purely just want to see what you guys think organically without me shoving my thoughts or opinions in there. So I will be bringing up certain pointed questions, and I will be telling the story, and I will be setting up the platform for you guys to express yourselves, but I'm just gonna sit here and I'm just gonna watch and see what people say. So I'm just gonna be really clear that I'm not really going to be talking about my own thoughts or feelings regarding this, and we'll see what you guys think. I was on Twitter a few weeks back when I stumbled across this tweet by this guy. His name is Agent Rice. He said, "Hey, don't do this, smiley face. This is so disrespectful to artists that work hard on their art. Tracing artwork is awful and hurtful, especially when the traced piece gets more attention than the original." He goes on to show a few pictures. One is of the traced picture, and that's in quotes because there's like a whole bunch of people fighting whether it was traced, whether it was not traced. He didn't trace it, now he did. Look at this layover, bah, 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 and they're all fighting. So there's the quote traced picture. There's one of the original picture that was taken and used. And then there's a third picture where he highlights the likes that's on the image that was taken. I scroll down and like this guy just keeps going on and has like several more responses to himself to, I guess, clarify what he's talking about or get into more depth about what he's talking about. Agent Rice says, "Also, if you support accounts like these, you are at fault as well because your support is what keeps them going. The problem with this is that the artwork isn't referenced in quotes," because that's what the guy says. He's referencing things, but whatever. So Agent Rice says the artwork isn't quote referenced, it's traced 100%. They also put their own signature on the traced drawing to claim it as their own, which it isn't. This is hurtful to the artist because although credit is given, it's most likely this was done without the artist's permission. On top of that, like I stated above, they claimed it as their own by putting their signature, and the traced piece gets more attention than the original. An artist seeing their content being copied 100% and getting more attention than their own artwork, which is the original, is really discouraging, which could lead to the artist dropping out of the fandom, quitting art, or just stop posting online. Don't know where my other tweet went, but don't do this, period. It's harmful to the artist. Support the original artist rather than the people who profit off of tracing. Tracing a person's art, it does not equal referencing. And then, after all that, there's like a whole ton, like a bunch of different responses with different amounts of support. So after reading a large chunk of what was written, I decided to stick this up on my own Twitter to see how my own people felt in regards to this idea, like this controversy here. And I'll share some images here so that you guys can read it. I will be scrolling through it. You'll see it in real time. Pause the video if you want to read anything. At a certain point with the original like Agent Rice thread, I had to quickly scroll because it got crazy. There's just so many responses. For the sake of the video, I'm going to explain the difference between tracing, copying, and referencing, and I do not personally think this is important whatsoever in this situation. However, some people are very passionate about it, and I expect people to talk about this in the comments down below. So I want to be very clear what the difference between tracing, copying, and referencing is, so that when you guys talk about it, you can kind of use the terms and have a better idea of what they mean. So to open this idea up, you have to kind of look at it like a normal person might use copied or referenced or even traced interchangeably. Because you could say, I copied something. You might think of like a photocopier where you printed out the lines, and that's pretty much like tracing it, but you're not doing the act of tracing it. Or like, I referred to this image here when I copied it. I referred to it, so it's my reference. So these things are very interchangeable to normal people. But in the art community, there's a big difference between these words, and it's very important to people. I'm not exactly sure why, because as soon as someone hears that something is traced or copied, then all of a sudden people are like, well, that's not that great, even though something could look amazing. There's a lot of like negative stigma and all that. This could be like a totally different video, but in the art community, these three terms are completely different, and it's very important to a lot of people, so I'm just going to explain real quick what the differences are. First, you have tracing, which you can do with a bunch of different methods. Essentially, you're taking a photograph or an artwork or some sort of image, and you are tracing the lines, whether you're using a light box, you're tracing on your iPad, you're using transfer paper. It really doesn't matter how you do it. You basically just draw on top of someone else's lines and then take those lines and use them in your own artwork. That's what tracing is. Copying is when you eyeball something. So you have a picture there, you're trying to remake that picture and make it look as similar as possible. And I think of like grids, like when you use grids to transfer images, but you're kind of redrawing it, eyeballing it, things like that. That is copying another image, and the grid is just like a tool to help you do that, just like a light box is a tool to help you trace. And then finally you have referencing, which means you have someone's photo, someone's artwork, and you take something from that reference or that photo and you use it within your own artwork. So you can kind of look at it like your own art is still original because it's your own ideas, you're figuring out what you're doing, but maybe you needed an aid of some sort to draw something like a flower or something. Like you have a girl, she's surrounded in flowers, and you looked up a bunch of flowers on the internet. Those are reference photos for the flowers that you draw in your picture. Or you saw a color scheme that you really liked that someone else applied in their own artwork. So you take that color scheme and make your own completely different looking picture with that color scheme. You use that color scheme as a reference, but you still made your own original piece of artwork. And I know people will go into nothing's original anymore and all that, but that isn't what this video is about. We're just talking about what a reference is. So here are my questions for you guys this week. My first one is it bad to trace artworks or copy artworks? If you traced or copied an artwork, would you upload it to the internet? Why or why not? Another question, would you sign a copied or traced artwork? Is this okay to do? Why or why not? Third question, do you think it is enough to say reference used and credit to the original artist without actually directly linking the original artist or mentioning their name? Like, does his disclaimer stamp just totally absolve all responsibility? Question 4. Does uploading traced or copied images hurt the original artists? If so, how? And we're talking about this in this context for this specific story. So, I mean, you could be like, oh yeah, they sold it, but in this specific scenario, it never happened. So in this version, does uploading the traced or copied images actually hurt the artist? How so? 5th question, what is the proper way to upload a copied or traced image? And is there a socially acceptable way to do this? Like, is it okay? Is there a proper way to do it? What do you think? I actually had to put this last question in after I edited most of the audio for my video because I just remembered. Is it your fault this guy is doing this? If you are watching this guy and you are following his content, is it your fault and you should be held responsible because you are directly supporting him? That's a question I really wanted to ask. For some reason, I totally forgot. Sorry, guys. Alright, and those are some of my questions. I tried to keep them to 5, but I mean, I had a lot more. In all honesty, I made this because I'm really curious what people think is socially acceptable and what is not. Like, people get really passionate about things, and I'm just interested to see what you think regarding the situation. I also acknowledge that, I feel like I'm a bit laid back when it comes to these sorts of things. Like, some other people will call this kid an art thief and a scumbag, but I don't think he's either of those things. I think he's a kid who doesn't know how to handle a situation properly and give credit in a clear and selfless way. So yeah, please don't go over there with pitchforks and harass the kid. What's more important is that you check out this other guy, Ryota, because, like, damn, he's got some really fine artwork. I'm gonna link him below in case you're interested in following him and supporting him because he's really good. And if you're interested in finding any of the posts, it's all linked in my Twitter. I hope that you guys liked this video and you found it interesting, and I'll talk to you again next week in another art video. You guys, take care of yourselves.